This morning I'm going to talk with you and go through the annual data report for the Spartanburg Public Safety Department for 2012. The first thing I'm going to talk about is our crimes against persons. As you can see, we're excited that we had a decline in those numbers and had a reduction from 1365 to 1245, which represents 120 fewer incidents of crimes against persons in the city of Spartanburg. This is a density map which shows our hotspots or shows where those crimes against persons most occur in the city of Spartanburg. And of course, and when you're looking at the map, the darker the color, the more incidents occur in those areas. Crimes against property. We also saw a reduction in those numbers from 2968 to 2884 as compared to last year, and those numbers represent a 2.8, nearly 3% increase from 2012. We're looking at now a density map that shows the concentration of crimes against property. And the next slide depicts the numbers for our violent crimes that were reported in the city of Spartanburg. We also had a decline in that area from 554 numbers in 2011 to 476. We are excited because that's a 14% reduction from the previous year, and the overall for the past 10 years, a little over 30%. This is a density map of our violent crimes. Again, the darker the area, the higher the concentration of incidents that are reported in those areas. Our murder numbers. In 2011, we had 6 incidents. In 2012, we had 2. 2 are still too many. Hopefully, we love to look at this chart and see that we had no incidents in this category. Our homicide statistics. In addition to the 2 murders that were reflected on the prior chart, we also had an incident that was homicide by neglect. This was a case where a gentleman failed to provide the appropriate care for his mother, and as a result of the injuries that she sustained from the neglect, she passed away. And the reason the differences between the prior slide and this slide in terms of numbers is because the FBI does not consider that particular incident counted in the prior category because it was due to neglect. And when you look at the circumstances, we always like to look at victim-suspect relationships, and we like to look at the circumstances as to what contributed or what the factors were in those particular cases. Our murder demographics. Our victims, there were 2 black males that were killed, a 55-year-old and a 56-year-old. In one of the cases, we have identified the suspect was a black male. And then the second case is a continuing investigation, and we have yet to identify the suspect in that particular case, but our investigators continue to work on that case. Forcible rapes. In 2012, we remained the same as we did the year prior. However, these numbers reflect nearly a 30% decline over a 10-year period. When we look at relationships, victim-suspect relationships, victim-perpetrator relationships, there seems to be a constant. Usually the cases that we see in the city of Spartanburg are committed by an individual that is known to the victim. Robberies are slightly down. by 3 from the previous year, and those numbers represent nearly a 25% decline over the 10-year period. Aggravated assaults. For 2012, we reported 330 incidents, and those numbers represent a nearly 23% decline over the course of the 10-year period. Our burglary numbers. We are just absolutely amazed by the burglary numbers and very excited. Of course, we want to see those numbers continue to decline. 476 reported incidents in 2012. As you can see, that's over 200 incidents fewer than 2011. We've got a couple of people that work, and there's several people who work, but I especially want to comment about 2 of our investigators who do an outstanding job on following up on the burglary cases. One of the things that, through their efforts, that we find is that oftentimes we have incidents that are reported as burglaries that are actually not burglaries, but tend to be incidents where individuals are either trying to defraud the insurance company or they're trying to defraud some other business, perhaps where they have obtained rental property. Investigator Chris Banks and Jason Tapp, we certainly thank you for your efforts in this area. Our 2010-2012 burglary comparison, those of you who have been with us a number of years as we share these, come together for this breakfast to share our numbers, you know that a few years back we came up with the idea of dedicating an individual, in addition to the investigators that will work in burglary cases, to dedicate an individual who would specifically concentrate on our burglary reduction initiative. That individual goes out and does a number of things in addition to the investigations. He is responsible for conducting a number of SEPTED or crime prevention through environmental design studies, and just doing a number of things that would help to target harden particular properties, businesses, and residences. These are our numbers that compares the number of residential burglaries versus commercial burglaries. And again, there's a decline there. Residential burglaries, again, decreased nearly 30%, and commercial nearly 50% over the 10-year period. Larcenies. Our larcenies are up. Now, there's been some discussion amongst our staff as to whether or not that's a good thing. If you are the individual who have lost resources as a result of being victimized by one of these crimes, it's a bad thing. But we believe that because of a number of things that's going on in this city, the direct official will share some comments about his philosophy or his take on some of that when he comes to talk with you. But in the next slide, you're going to see what contributes to the increase in the larceny numbers. Shopliftings. Shopliftings increased a lot. We went from 747 in 2011 to 1108 in 2012. If you look at the chart, the 1108, in 2012, we had the highest number of shoplifting incidents that have been reported in the city of Spartanburg over the course of the past 10 years. Motor vehicle thefts, down significantly. Arson cases are down from 26 to 15. That also represents a huge decline from last year and also over the 10-year period. Our juvenile crimes. We are actually seeing a decrease in the number of juveniles that we're taking into custody. And we believe that takes place because of a number of great things that are happening in this community. We have a lot of wonderful partners that we work with, and there are a lot of opportunities for juveniles in this community. We have some folks internal to the organization who dedicate their time specifically for working with juveniles and helping them to make better decisions and to engage in activities that hopefully going to deter them from committing additional crimes or committing crimes. Our juvenile victims, however, increased from the previous year. Adult arrests, we saw a decline in the number of arrests, but then that makes sense since we had a decline in the number of reported crimes. And this is the density of our arrests in the city. And then these are the numbers for our drug arrests. We saw an increase in the number of drug incidents in the city of Spartanburg. There are several factors that contribute to this. One of the things is we believe that we've done a better job of training officers and helping them to recognize certain things that would lead them to discover drugs when they make contact with individuals. Also, again, our violent crimes NIP team, these individuals, they're tasked with addressing issues that contributes to violence in neighborhoods. And we all know that those drug cases are a main factor or a main contributor for those kinds of incidents. So we have folks throughout the department, a dedicated group of narcotics investigators that work on drug cases. And we also, I would be remiss if I failed to mention that our drug investigators partner with federal agencies who are all very helpful in helping us to make those arrests.